Patriots head coach Bill Belichick and the Patriots have officially parted ways. He will be moving on, maybe looking for a new coaching opportunity. So on today's episode of Patriots Today, we're going to take a look at our initial list of Bill Belichick replacements as head coach. I think it's safe to assume they'll be hiring a GM as well. Robert Kraft talking later today, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel. We will have the entire head coaching search covered on a day-to-day basis here on Patriots Today. Interview requests, news, rumors, candidate pool. We will have it all covered here on this channel, so do not miss out. Subscribe, turn on notifications. The road to 8,000 subscribers is well underway, so help us out if you don't want to miss out. All right, here, Harrison Graham, Nick Roloff going to hop in a second. I think the top and obvious candidate here to discuss, and there's a big number 2 candidate worth exploring as well, is Mike Vrabel, the ex-head coach of the Titans, who surprisingly hit the open market here. And look, as soon as that happened, Rolly, I think that kind of rolled the ball over the hill, if you will, of Belichick kind of getting pushed out of New England, if we're being honest. I got to think Robert Kraft is very interested in bringing Vrabel back to New England.
I mean, it was always Mike Vrabel. I mean, it's kind of the joke. If it's not Mike Vrabel, I'll honestly be surprised. I really think he will be the next head coach in New England, and maybe rightfully so, too, right? Like, he's got experience. He played in New England for 7-8 years and was fantastic. He also, a little action there, caught a couple passes in the Super Bowl from Tom Brady. I mean, he was coach of the year just 2 seasons ago. He has experience. He led the Titans through a couple playoff victories, including one against the Patriots in Tom Brady's final game in Foxborough. Career record is above 500. Last 2 seasons have been rough, but Vrabel has shown the ability to be a leader of men, right? And be someone who is a player's coach, which I think is very important in this day and age. I think Mike Vrabel would be able to come in and keep the locker room in a good spot. And I think players would understand and get with Mike Vrabel very quickly.
Yeah, look, to me, this makes sense for so many reasons. Number one, proven success. He won the AFC in the regular season 1 year, got the number 1 seed, got upset by the Bengals and Joe Burrow, but won 13 games that year. In a different season, I think the year before, went to the AFC Championship game and was competitive with the Chiefs. I think they were either tied or in front at halftime in that game before Mahomes and Kansas City pulled away. He has had high levels of success without ever having an elite quarterback. Ryan Tannehill has been the best guy he's had. Now, obviously, that's a question that has to be answered in New England, who is going to be the next quarterback. But Mike Vrabel has made it work with good defenses and a power running game. Well, New England kind of has that for the most part already. Good defense in place. They run the football fairly well. They do need to get better on the offensive line, and obviously you got to figure out quarterback and those skill positions offensively. But if you get some of those pieces filled, bring in Mike Vrabel with the right offensive mind, whether that's Bill O'Brien or someone else, I think you're a playoff team by 2025, and maybe, just maybe in 2024, you're competing for a wild card berth. So he's our top candidate. Now, it's being reported as well, Rolly, that Jerod Mayo has been the linebackers coach for a few years. He's taken head coach interviews. He's considered a highly touted rising coach in this league. He's obviously, I would have to think, at least going to get a strong look and interview. And obviously what that also does is it covers part of the Rooney Rule process. You can cover, you have to interview 2 minority candidates. He would be one. But I actually think he is a legitimate candidate. I don't think he's a Rooney Rule check the box. I do think they'll give Jerod Mayo a legitimate look here.
And they should. Like, he's had a lot of experience under Bill Belichick. He's the top in-house candidate without a doubt. And I think that he was viewed as the successor to Bill Belichick heading into this just past NFL season. I mean, he could have went and grabbed the Panthers job. Like, that was a legit possibility for Jerod Mayo, and he ended up not.
Great move not doing that.
Yeah. Maybe that should be the reason why he is the next coach, because he already knew that was going to be a train wreck in Carolina.
Smart guy.
But either way, Mayo was viewed, he was learning under Belichick with, I think, the intent of being the next head coach. I mean, he's a young guy. He's only 37. He spent all 8 seasons in the NFL with Bill Belichick in Foxborough and was one hell of a football player. All-Pro, Rookie of the Year in 2008, which, by the way, he played with Mike Vrabel in 2008, so there was a year overlap. As Harrison mentioned, maybe there's a chance he stays on as DC if Vrabel is the head coach. But he's a decorated player inside the NFL, and he's one of the highly regarded defensive minds. And one of the things that I think is the most important thing when it comes to being a head coach, take the X's and O's out of it. You need to be a leader of men. You need to inspire the guys that are playing underneath you so they will have your back and go out there and perform the best. And even though Mayo would be a first-time head coach if he ended up being the successor, the current players in the Patriots locker room like Mayo. Matthew Judon has been on record, the best defensive player for the Patriots, saying how much respect he has for Mayo and how Mayo understands the grind, the gruel of training camp, the practices throughout the year. He makes film fun. Matthew Judon has been on record saying those things. So the players already in the Patriots locker room, I think, would get behind Mayo if he was the next head coach and replaced Belichick, because it could be awkward if they bring in a guy like Ben Johnson, who, even though is a really good candidate, is someone outside the organization and an offensive guy. They keep Mayo, the players will be behind it. You can guarantee that.
Yeah, and I do think the appeal for Mayo, if you're Robert Kraft, is, and I think this would be my pitch if I was Mayo, is I'll be a CEO type of head coach. Obviously, he'll be involved in the defense, but I think he would bring in someone to call defensive plays because he has just been the linebackers coach. Obviously, you'd have to figure out offense as well, but if you want to keep some sort of continuity, this is probably the best way to do it. Now, could you argue that going outside is the better move, considering you haven't won a ton lately? Yeah, I think there's a decent argument for that. But to Rolly's point, this defense is still really good. The guys in the locker room respect him. So I certainly see the appeal here, and I don't think it would be a bad move to give Jerod Mayo this opportunity. I would prefer Mike Vrabel, as you guys can weigh in here, over Mayo, because I think it's a bit safer. I think it's a guy who is a Patriots guy as well, and a guy who's won at this level in this position. But listen, maybe Mayo's the next great thing. I mean, and you could be risking losing that out your door. So what do you guys think? Who will be the next Patriots head coach? If you think it's going to be Mike Vrabel, type MV. If you think it's going to be Jerod Mayo, type JM. If you think it's someone else, you can drop their names in the comments as well. I do think if going offense still has its appeal as well, Rolly, to the reasons we've mentioned a lot, the inability to sustain offensive success. I think the biggest reason for that is personnel, but I think coaching's played a role, especially last year when Matt Patricia was running the offense. But Ben Johnson, Lions offensive coordinator, who already has, I think, 4 or 5 interviews lined up, he certainly is a coveted guy. If you wanted to give him a look, I certainly wouldn't say no.
No, I mean, listen, I've been, I think, on a record, if you've been with us for a long time here at Patriots Today, when we were talking about how Belichick could be moved on from back in like week 12 this year. And I said back then that Ben Johnson, I coined him Benny J, would be the best coach to replace Bill Belichick, because what he's done in Detroit has been nothing short of phenomenal on the offensive side of the ball as the play caller. He has revitalized Jared Goff's career and made him a top 10, well, fringe top 10 QB in the NFL. And that offense, although they do have some elite talent in Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and a solid O-line, they have just been a top 5 offense in all of football this year without a doubt. And like I mentioned, I think the biggest appeal to bringing in Ben Johnson is that you're likely going to go with another young quarterback relatively soon. Maybe it's Jaden Daniels. Maybe they trade up and take either Drake May or Caleb Williams. If you draft a rookie quarterback, you're going to need someone to be in his ear, giving him the right type of advice and the right type of things to get him going, and Ben Johnson would be able to do that.
And just building the proper offense around said player. I think that's what's made him so impressive, Rolly, is how he's been able to build around what Jared Goff does well. Like, I think that's what makes him so appealing. It's not like he got Mahomes and has had this awesome run. He got a good quarterback and has created a great offense. Like, I think that's really impressive. So he's certainly a strong candidate. And listen, shorter resume here, only 1 year of play calling, but Bobby Slowik, he comes from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. What he's done with C.J. Stroud in his rookie season, I mean, we just witnessed one of the best rookie campaigns for a quarterback in the history of the sport. I do wonder if he'll go the Ben Johnson route and kind of just take these interviews, get that experience, and then go back for another year, get another year of play calling duty experience. I could see him doing that. But this guy, man, for what he's done with Stroud. And by the way, an offense that's dealt with injuries on the offensive line and at receiver, it's been really impressive, man. A playoff team for the Houston Texans this year.
And what I all said about Ben Johnson and how if you're going to go with a rookie quarterback, whether it be Daniels, Williams, or May, you got to have someone in his ear that knows this league and is an established offensive mind. Well, you just saw Bobby Slowik absolutely cook with C.J. Stroud, a rookie from Ohio State, the number 2 overall pick, and they're hosting a playoff game in his rookie season. I mean, he's one of the fastest rising head coach candidates. He's super young. He's younger than Jerod Mayo, who at 37 would be one young hire. And, I mean, I get why. Like I mentioned with Ben Johnson, he has good offense with decent talent. I don't think the talent in Houston is that good. I mean, they have Laramie Tunsil, a really good offensive lineman. Nico Collins has come on, but like veterans Dalton Schultz, Noah Brown, Robert Woods, Tank Dell was solid before he got hurt.
I mean, he's made Devin Singletary, have a career year.
I mean,
Buffalo could never unlock him, and Singletary comes to Houston as the backup, takes over for Damian Pierce after he got hurt, and has never looked back. He's had the best year of his career.
I mean, if you had to put a gun to my head and ask me who is going to be the next head coach, I would no doubt have it be between Mike Vrabel and Jerod Mayo. But if you did want to go offense because you're going to draft a quarterback with a top 3 selection,
it makes sense, man.
Johnson or Slowik are 2 really good options.
Yeah, no doubt about it. When the Patriots do hire a head coach, unless it's some obscure timing, the plan is to go live. So hit that subscribe button. We're going to have you covered here on Patriots Today. It's a good candidate pool. It really is. There's some guys out there that I think can fill the void. So if you want more Patriots coverage, hit that subscribe button. We got you covered. Jim Harbaugh, Rolly, don't think he's a fit in New England.
No, I completely agree. and I just kind of put him on here because he's one of the biggest candidates there is. And there's no doubt that, to me, Harbaugh is going to the NFL after winning the national championship in Michigan this past year. But I don't think he's a fit in New England. I don't want him in New England, if I'm going to be honest.
I don't think him and Kraft work.
No, and here's the thing. It's like, even if you go to Harbaugh's side of things, the biggest question, would Jim Harbaugh even want to come to the Northeast and try to replace Bill Belichick? And I think Harbaugh is going to want some personnel control, which Harris and I are both on record saying we do not want another coach-GM hybrid. Those 2 positions need to be separate. We need to break that mold and go in a different way. So I don't think Harbaugh is a good fit. And I don't think Harbaugh would even want to come to New England.
I've also been told, Roy, he does not want to live on the East Coast.
Now, I mean, that makes sense. He's a West Coast guy.
He's West Coast and Midwest. Like, he will either, I think he would have been interested in the Bears job if that opened up, but I think it's Vegas or it's L.A. with the Chargers. Or he stays at Michigan. Like, I think that's what it's looking like at this point. Could that change in the future perhaps? But I don't think he would really want to go there. I don't think the Patriots should go this route. I love Harbaugh as a coach. He's a great coach. But I think getting back to a traditional setup, coach, GM, and resetting that way is the proper direction for New England right now. Now, would you take or want Jim Harbaugh as the next Patriots head coach? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let us know in the comment section down below. Quick little rapid fire here, Rolly, at some other notable candidates. Dan Quinn does kind of feel like Seattle is probably going to be the fit there. There's a lot of buzz already, but another vital defensive guy that's out there for sure.
I mean, Dan Quinn's really, really good. I don't expect him to be someone New England goes out after. The other 4 names on this list, Josh McDaniels, obviously former Patriots OC, Raiders head coach, Bill O'Brien, the current offensive coordinator in New England. Dave Canales is an interesting name.
I like Canales.
He has, like Ben Johnson, revitalized Baker Mayfield's career as the offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. That is an intriguing name, probably unlikely. But
he was also the quarterback's coach in 2022 in Seattle when Geno came back to life. So he's kind of done this 2 years in a row, or at least been a part of it, where 2 journeyman type of quarterbacks have had career years under him.
And then
so that's pretty fascinating.
A name that is very intriguing to me is Brian Flores. I don't think New England will go that route, but a really good defensive mind, as we know, former Patriots defensive coach. He was the head coach in Miami, has turned around that Vikings defense. They were elite for a decent stretch of this past season. They fell off late.
Yeah, finished poorly late, but how much of that was the offense just kept turning the ball over?
I mean, Flores, someone already knows what the Patriots system is about, defensive mind. I wouldn't be shocked if they interviewed him, but I still am going to go back to my sentiment that it's going to be Jerod Mayo or Mike Vrabel to me, without a doubt.
I think, listen, if you can get Vrabel, make that move. If you can convince Mayo to stay as DC, that'd be awesome. But we'll see what happens. But 10 candidates that we have there, of course, as the search comes in. We'll keep you up to date. And listen, I think getting a GM first is important. I think Vrabel's probably the exception there, Rolly. But obviously, we fully assume that they're going to go back to a traditional setup, and getting a general manager in the building quickly is going to be something they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, GM, I think, is the first step of this process. Maybe Vrabel gets hired before GM, but you got to find your guy, and then you're going to have Kraft and the GM conduct these interviews for the next Patriots head coach in all likelihood. So I think we're going to start seeing some news, maybe probably not today because it's still a pretty monumental day in New England, so they'll probably let the dust settle for the next 12 to 16 hours, and then I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing GM interview requests start being fired off tomorrow, and head coach interview requests as well.
And if anything notable, by the way, comes out of that Robert Kraft presser later today, we'll have you covered. Maybe Rolly will do a short or something like that here on the channel to pass along any relevant information. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. And again, we're going to have this full search covered. So keep it right here, locked in to Patriots Today.